Thank you for staying with BizCheck. Now we want to have a conversation still on matters energy, but on matters rural, the rural people accessing clean energy. And to have this conversation is William Mulehi, who is a principal in charge of business consulting and research at Intellicap. About 90% of rural Kenya uses biomass as its main source of fuel, which includes wood and charcoal, and that has had adverse effects on health issues, on health matters rather of the users. We want to just know the journey towards ensuring that people in the rural areas are accessing clean energy, and what challenges are faced even as we continue to make sure that there is access to clean energy in the rural areas. Thank you very much, William, for speaking with us.
Okay, thank you.
Karibu sana. Could you give us a backgrounder on where we are at in terms of rural Kenya and energy access?
Okay, thank you very much. I think when we start talking about renewable energy and access to renewable energy for especially the underserved and unserved populations, I think the figures that we've been having over the last 5 or 6 years, in terms of the number of people who we should be electrifying, we are looking at about 624 million people to be electrified by 2030. And now this takes a lot of effort, from the private sector, from development partners, who are all sort of like channeling different energies and different ways of trying to support private sector to access some of these markets. And specifically, I think looking at the rural population, we are looking at about just over 700 million people who do not have access to, this energy.
Globally?
Yes, globally.
Right.
And I think specifically looking at about 300 million people who are in areas or rural areas which are nascent to this particular energy, but they still do not have that access to power. Mm-hmm. And I think looking specifically within Africa, we are looking at about maybe about 50 to 60% of them being in Africa, so spread out across the continent. Mm-hmm. And so those are some of the efforts that I think we need to start looking at, both as private sector as well as the government, in terms of how do we provide a bit more access for this particular population. Mm-hmm.
And what are the challenges that these people face in terms of they don't have access to clean energy? So this lack of access, what are the challenges that come with it?
So the challenges are quite diverse. So this, it spans both from the consumer perspective, as well as the enterprises that are being able to access to provide this renewable energy. Mm-hmm. So looking at some of the challenges, and I think most recently we've seen is the shilling depreciation against the world currencies, which has a ripple effect in terms of how much these systems go for, and then again, of course, that feeds back to affordability of the people who are actually supposed to be purchasing this. Then another challenge I think we can talk about is access to capital, and again, capital from this perspective would be from both the enterprise perspective as well as the consumer perspective. So sometimes trying to access these really rural markets can be a challenge to a lot of the private sector companies, because the population is very sparsely populated, and so when it comes to marketing costs, promotion costs, those are quite high, because you'll find people are sort of like congested in one small area, then the next one in a distant sort of part. So it becomes very expensive for these organizations to be successful in terms of delivering this energy. And then I think another challenge we could be talking about is the incentives. So what are the incentives that some of these enterprises are going through? Again, just looking at financial support sometimes may not be it. So one there is of course the financial aspect of it, but also looking at there's more that goes to it even before you go to the market. So trying to look at, for example, if you're having challenges in terms of accessing this, so what sort of technical support would you be required to, or would they be able to access? Aside from just being the capital. And then again, just going back to what I just talked about, the distribution costs, which also proves like to become a challenge. But also for that, again, it's the affordability of these systems to the local population. I know there are some organizations that have run results-based financing that sort of like helps helps the rural folks be able to actually be able to afford this. A lot of the companies are also doing what you call the pay-as-you-go service, and again, this sort of like reduces the initial or the capital cost when it comes to purchasing these solar home systems, for example, or these off-grid systems. And so that is a good way in terms of how to go about it. But again, there's still a bit of work that needs to go into it, because especially if you're looking at like the period between the COVID period, a lot of people lost their jobs, lost their livelihoods, and of course that affects their ability and willingness to pay. So they may want to pay for this particular service, but they're not able to afford it. But again, some companies, some private sector companies that were doing the distribution of, for example, the solar home systems, they were able to extend, let's say like maybe 2 or 3 months of the customer not paying, but they still are able to access this energy. So those are just some of the high-level challenges that we'll be talking about.
Let's delve more into the balancing bit in terms of it's high cost. It's a high-cost venture to deliver to this populace, but at the same time, they don't have high income levels that they can afford very expensive gadgets or equipment to access this energy. So what can be done, or rather as an investor, how do you find that balance?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I think trying to as I mentioned just right now, one of the things that these private sector companies are doing is having it like as a pay-as-you-go. So you don't actually purchase the equipment on a one-off payment. Maybe you pay like an initial deposit, maybe like 20 or 30%, and then the balance of it is paid over a period of time. So that sort of like eases the pressure on the consumer being able to access this power. And then another thing, as these private sector companies, as they observe the repayment model of each customer, then they are able to say, to look and say, okay, this particular customer has been consistent, maybe paying over the next 1 year or so, and so maybe they would be able to access now bigger or larger system. Because, for example, if you're talking about solar home systems, there's the basic one that just has like maybe 1 or 2 lights, and then maybe a radio or a torch. And then now there are other bigger systems, which of course now are far from the reach of a lot of these local populations in the rural, underserved and unserved populations. So looking at their income levels and how this is going, then they would be able to maybe sort of like trade in the smaller systems that they have for bigger systems that maybe has, for example, like a TV, or it maybe comes with a refrigerator, and then again that also sort of like has a ripple effect, because a positive ripple effect actually, because once they're able to upgrade, then you see maybe especially for the rural folk, they're able now to maybe sell maybe like cold beverages. So that that sort of like gives you an edge over your competitors, especially in the hot, maybe like northern parts of Kenya. So they're able to sell that. Some of them are also able to offer mobile phone charging at a fee. So that sort of like has a ripple effect, a positive ripple effect in terms of growing their income.
So for the rural population, one of the issues that the uptake faces is, apart from the costing point, there's the issue of the cultural, the mindset that needs to be changed. I mean, if you're going to convince me to go from firewood, which I access right here, to some more expensive energy source, what does it take to convince the rural populace to move to these cleaner options? Okay,
yeah, that's a good point, and it's something that I think we've also experienced, working with a lot of these private sector companies. There's usually a lot of mindset change that needs to go into it. So that's why most of these companies, what they do is that there's a lot of market activation where they come. Let's say like during the market days, they set up their equipment, they are able to test it, so the consumers are able to come and see what benefit would this be in terms of them being able to access to use these particular systems. And so again, just trying to sensitize them in terms of the benefit, because as you say, using firewood for for lighting, it's not a very healthy option. So it comes with respiratory challenges, respiratory problems. There's a lot of smoke, which also affects especially if you have kids. And so so a lot of sensitization goes in even before you actually come in and say this is the product that we're actually going to be able to sustain. And so so those are just some of the things that we would be able to look at in terms of how are you able to position this particular product in a way that is going to be beneficial to the consumers. So a lot of sensitization is actually needed, and then of course this also feeds into the support that, for example, the local government would be able to come in. So again, most of these local rural areas, you have to go through maybe like the local area chief or a community leader or community elder. So it starts from that point, and then they would be able now to help you, sort of like be your, let me call them free marketers for the particular products. Mm-hmm. So that's the approach. Yeah.
Right. Coming up with solutions for this sector needs a lot of innovation, and the issues that one sector faces, the populace in rural Kenya faces in one area might not be the same as another area within the same country or even within the same region. So when innovators are coming up with solutions, what is the importance of local-based solutions?
Yes, local-based solutions, as you rightly put it, it's something that addresses the particular community in which they're coming into. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you're looking at maybe not using Kenya as an example, maybe another market, maybe like in West Africa, which there are a lot of younger markets compared to markets across Eastern Africa. So you need to be able to really see, one, you need to conduct an assessment in terms of affordability and willingness to pay for the consumers. Mm-hmm. So you need to be able to say, okay, this is the product that we want to bring into this market. You conduct maybe a quick survey just to try and understand, okay, is this community able to afford this, because everyone would want power. Everyone wants to have a TV in their house. Everyone wants to be able to switch on your lights at night, security-wise. But there's now the issue of cost, and now that's where a lot of R&D for these companies is really needed. The research and development, trying to understand the market, and then post that, now you're able to provide a product that actually speaks to this particular market. So, for example, I think in some of the areas that we've worked, we are able to see people, so a company would come and say, maybe we have this product that is going to be able to, power maybe a fridge or something, but maybe that's not what their immediate need is. Maybe the immediate need is actually to be able to, security, especially for post-conflict or really rural areas where security is an issue. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes even just by having that one light at your door, that will already deter, potential thieves coming. So it really needs to speak to the market that the company is trying to access. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's talk more about the benefits. You've mentioned the issue of maybe security and that one light changing the lives of a number of people in the village. What are the benefits of ensuring that everybody has access to clean energy?
The benefits are quite a number. If we are looking at, even from a health perspective, just as we had talked about, a lot of respiratory diseases emanate from the fact that most of these people are using kerosene or using firewood for lighting, for cooking as well, which, has its own negative effects in terms of the health. So that's one of the benefits of, having this clean and sustainable energy. Looking at, as I mentioned again, increased security. Because a lot of these rural areas, because of darkness, so they're prone to, attacks from maybe other communities or rather just normal thieves. Again, a lot of these systems, they're not just the lighting system. So it's a package that comes maybe with, for example, like a radio, like a TV, and based on that now, consumers are able to access more information. They're able to sort of be in touch with, what is happening. So current affairs, they're able to, switch on their radio and hear what is happening, hear what the government is talking about. So there's also that sort of like awareness when it comes to access to energy. So there's access to information. And then I think one of the key things, which I think maybe we should have even started with, is the increased potential income. So a lot of these systems spanning from, let's say, like for the smaller, let's say, smaller solar home systems, which are looking at maybe you have like a phone charging, so you're able to offer that as a service to maybe your neighbors. You're able to access, let's say, like a TV. So there are those ones that would be able to, have sort of like entertainment joints where people can come and watch maybe football, maybe on weekends, and they are able to now maybe charge these neighbors of theirs to come and actually access this information. And so those are some of the sort of like key benefits that we'd be looking at. And then again, I think something that's very key and a challenge to a lot of these rural areas is the fact that once it's darkness, you're not able to continue your business. And so if you have this lighting, if you have this solar home system lights, you'll be able to, maybe carry on your business into the night, which of course has a ripple effect in terms of increased income to the family. Yeah. So those are just some of the sort of like high level key benefits that we'll be talking about.
Right. Of course, for uptake to increase, there has to be, as you said, some incentives from the government. What are your views in terms of the current incentives in this industry?
I mean, if we are looking at incentives, I think we are able to see quite a number of them because, I mean, looking at the Lighting Global report of 2022, we're looking at, at an investment that is going into renewable energy of over $2 billion US. And this is now as of 2022. So I'm sure by now this has been growing because a lot of these private sector companies, these foreign FDIs, the foreign direct investors, are seeing that this market actually does have a potential. So there's a lot of investment that is going into that. There's a lot of investment that's going into, and this capital is being used basically for research and development, being able to offer bigger and better systems at a more affordable rate. So being able to, provide that sort of support. There's also the aspect of technical assistance support because a lot of these businesses, and especially the ones that are working in rural areas, need a lot of hand-holding, aside from even before you actually give them finances. So looking at what are some of the setups that they already have, what are some of the structures that they already have. And now from there, you'll be able to say, okay, maybe they're asking, let's say like they're looking for support of maybe $500,000 US, for example. But even before providing them with that particular financing, they need to have sort of like structures in place that will be able to properly manage these finances. And I know a lot of the smaller indigenous local companies, that is a lot of where they struggle with. And that's why you see a lot of foreign companies coming to open up shop in a lot of these markets, and they prosper. Because of course, one, they have the financial muscle, they have their structures in place, and they are able to now even attract this investment that comes in from various development partners. So I think those are just some of the key things that we sort of need to also look at.
Right. So when you're talking to an investor who is looking to enter into this industry, what would you tell them?
One, I think they need to really do their market research very well, because there's no really market that's similar. I mean, looking at markets like Kenya, you can't compare a market like Kenya with a market like, for example, Tanzania. Looking maybe outward, the markets like in East Africa are generally a bit more stronger than markets in West Africa or in Southern Africa. The uptake, the level of electrification by the government is also higher in these particular markets. So those are just some of the things that one needs to do. You need to also conduct a lot of market assessments to understand what your market needs, and see how best you're able to address that. And then I think another thing that would be, of course, quite useful for these organizations is to ensure that the necessary structures are in place. The necessarily, if we're looking at maybe like operations, sales and marketing, having the right team. So there's a lot of background work that needs to go even before you actually set up this company to deliver that.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your thoughts. I'll have to take those as your closing remarks, William. We are out of time. That is William Mulehi. He is a principal in charge of business consulting and research at Intellicap, and we have been talking about how to ensure that the rural Kenya is accessing clean energy. I would like now to leave you with the Defense Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale, who is speaking at the launch of the National Peace Support Operations by the Kenya Defense Forces at Kahawa Garrison in Nairobi. Let's listen into that.